Ladies and gentlemen, you are very welcome to MJ's Brasserie Virtual Burn Supper 2021. We're going to kick off with Lucy Anderson reading the Selkirk Grace. Thank you.
Some hae meat and canna eat, and some would eat that want it. But we hae meat and we can eat, so let the Lord be thanked.
Okay, next we're going to bring on the beast. Hopefully you've had your soup now, you enjoyed the prunes in it. Cockaliki made the proper way with prunes. Some people will like it, some folk won't. Hopefully most of you did. It's now time for the haggis.
Fair fa your honest sonsy face, great chieftain o' the pun race, aboon the ma ye tak your place, paints tripe or firm, will your wordy o your grace, as lang as my arm. The groan and tenture there ye fill, your hurdies like a distant hill, your pin would hap to help mend a mill in time of need, while through your pores the dews distill like amber bead. His knife see rustic labour delight, and cut ye up wi' ready sight. Trenching your gushing entrails bright, like ony ditch, and then, oh what a glorious sight, warm, reeking, rich. Then, horn for horn, they stretch and strive, they'll tack behind most on they drive, till a' their wheel-swallied kites belive are bent like drums. The old goodman, maist like to rive, bethank it hums. Is there that o'er his French ragout, or olio that wad straw so, or fricassee would make her spew? With perfect scunner, looks down with sneering scorn for view, on stick a dinner. Poor devil, see him o'er his trash, as feckless as a withered rash, his spindle shank a good whiplash, his neve a knit, through bloody flood or field to dash, oh how unfit. But mark the rustic haggis fed, the trembling earth resounds his tread, clap in his wally neve a blade, he'll make it whistle, and legs and arms and heads will sned like taps of thistle. Ye powers whamak mankind your care, and dish them out their bill of fare. Old Scotland wants nae shrinking ware that jaups in luggies, but if you wish her grateful prayer, gie her a haggis. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're able, please be upstanding for a toast to the haggis.
The haggis.
The haggis.
It now falls on me to do the immortal memory. This evening is happening all over the world. In Glasgow, Ayr, London, Paris, New York, Moscow, Kuala Lumpur, etc. People are gathering to celebrate Rabi's 262nd birthday. Why is that? No other country gathers annually to celebrate the birth and the memory of their nation's favourite writer. Have you ever heard of a Shakespeare supper, a Dickens dinner, a Tolstoy tea? No, Rabi was special. So this is essentially a story about the universal, global appeal and relevance of a poet in a world that boasts at least 40 statues of him. A poet whose image overlooks the Bowling Green in Portpatrick, the Victoria Embankment in London, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. His handsome likeness views the early morning joggers in Central Park, New York, and visitors to American libraries. He was the first non-Russian to appear on a Russian postage stamp, And a Burns supper streamed live from the Kremlin still tops the ratings today. Bob Dylan called My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose his favourite song, while Walter Scott said A Fond Kiss contains the essence of 1,000 love songs. Muhammad Ali once visited his house and was asked by a fan who knew his penchant for rhyming for a couplet or two. You have your own poet, replied the greatest of all time, in a very rare moment of modesty. He's a genius, and I am no match for your Robert Burns, even heroes of heroes. This is good timing today, just following on from President Biden's inauguration, because I want to tell you about Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a huge Burns fan, and he wrote, "From Shakespeare, I learned the sonnets. From the Bible, the scriptures. But it was from that man I learned humanity." So where did this come from? Well, naturally, it came from the place where all good things originate, Scotland. Or, to be more precise, Govan. Jack Kelso changed the course of world history. Jack Kelso from Govan lit a fire in the imagination of the restless intellect of a young Abraham Lincoln. Because Jack Kelso was an immigrant schoolmaster from Govan who lived near to the Lincolns. He had an unusually large private library, and learning of the young Abe's passion for poetry, he gifted him a collected works of Burns. Within 3 months, Lincoln knew most of them by heart. His favourite was Tam O'Shanter, and when Lincoln went on to be a successful lawyer, his colleague Charles Maltby reported him walking down frontier town high streets, gieing it laldy. We didn't have a clue what he was saying, admitted Maltby, but he quoted Burns by the hour. But Lincoln was also entranced by a man's a man for all that, and absorbed the radical notion that we shouldn't judge our fellow men by status or wealth, but by their humanity and integrity. Lincoln was fascinated by a man who was a Democrat, a patriot, and an internationalist at a time when none of these were mainstream beliefs. And such was the influence of Burns on him, it was reported that when he sat down to write his famous Gettysburg Address, his chief thought was, what would Burns say? And that profound influence of Burns can be clearly felt when reading Lincoln's second inaugural address. Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. If it sounds familiar, it's because it copies precisely the rhythm and cadence of his hero's writing. Burns was big in America before Lincoln, of course. Some of the founding fathers knew their Burns chapter and verse, and of course much of the Scottish diaspora ended up on their shores. Indeed, even when Burns was still alive, there was a burgeoning trade in counterfeit Kilmarnock editions, for which Burns, of course, didn't receive a penny, or a single Scots pound even, although you'd like to think he'd have been chuffed at the interest. There's also, I think, something in Burns that appealed to the new people from the old world. Burns was something from the old country, but was markedly different in outlook. I think the new Americans saw a lot of themselves and had a better version of themselves in Burns. And that appeal didn't stop in America. A man's a man for all that became the anthem of the German left during the revolutions of 1848 and 49. And in a slightly surreal twist, a Burns song, My Heart's in the Highlands, became the official marching song for Chairman Mao and his people during the Long March. I'm honestly not making this up. This is the God's honest truth. There's enough material in To a Mouse to keep us going in immortal memories for a century. But this wee poem is a secret to Burns' universal appeal, because the many themes are current and utterly timeless. Recently, English football games kicked off exactly a minute after the advertised time, as part of the very worthy Take a Minute campaign to get us all to consider our mental health. Burns was so depressed after wrecking the wee moose's hoose that he barely left the house for 3 months afterwards. But a backward cast my ee, with prospects drear, and forward, though I cannae see, I guess, and fear. This is a poem about mental health. At the time of the poem, Burns was a local celebrity rather than a global A-lister. His personal life was in turmoil. James Armour hated his guts, and the long-term future with Jean was far from a done deal. This is a poem about our relationships with the people we love. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union, and justifies that ill opinion that makes thee startle at me, thy poor earthborn companion and fellow mortal. That's a conceit lifted directly from Adam Smith's theory of modern sentiments, which expats in America would have immediately recognised, incidentally. But the first bit, the breaking of nature's social union, feels frighteningly modern. Burns was in the middle of a series of failed harvests that would ultimately derail his farming career. And it feels modern because it is. Because this is a poem about climate change. It's a poem about the environment. As Australia burns, ice caps melt, and Greta Thunberg appears on the cover of Time magazine, this poem feels chillingly prescient. And finally, another great Scot, it was Billy Connolly who raised this. What's a moose without a hoose? This is a poem about homelessness. This is a poem about displacement. Like Auld Lang Syne, this is a poem about exile. No wonder it caught the imagination of people who made the journey to borrow from the brilliant proclaimers from Westeros to Nova Scotia, ripped like the moose from their homes because the land-owning and political class saw them as an obstacle to profit. The moose's story is Scotland's story. In every conceivable way, Burns was miles ahead of the curve, and in every possible way, he still is. The words of a man for all that are familiar, but it's a song of huge ambition. It's a huge ask to write a song about international brotherhood without making it sentimental or naive. And yet Burns pulled it off with a heartfelt, moving appeal to our shared humanity. Then as now, the song encapsulates Burns' democratic voice. He speaks not to the rank, but to whoever's in front of him. A louse, a lady, a man, a mouse. What would Rabbie have thought of the £30 school meal boxes? In an age where our fundamental rights as people are on the table, when your Burke's Cada Lord are knighted for imposing austerity on those least able to withstand its effects, when democracy itself is under threat. Can we ever hear these sentiments enough? The last verse goes, then let us pray that come it may, and come it will for all that sense and worth o'er all the earth shall bear the gree and all that. For all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that man to man the world o'er shall brothers be for all that. Robert Burns' Eternal Gift to the World was an anthem that celebrates the enduring capacity of humans to reconnect despite everything that has happened between us. That great anthem of friendship and exile, Auld Lang Syne, when we join hands with the person to our left and right. It's a curious thing to do when you think about it, but it feels like the right thing to do. It's possible we won't know who the person next to us is. We might guess at their politics, even if we don't know for sure. It's possible we won't know their religious beliefs, if indeed they hold any at all. It's possible we won't know their stories, their backgrounds, their life histories. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter. In the simple act of holding hands with a stranger, Burns' song reiterates a powerful faith in the capacity of people to do good and trust others to do good with us. It's a powerful, timeless message that flies in the face of austerity and neoliberalism, that shines a light in the darkness and gives us a harbour in the tempest, that reminds us that without each other, we are nothing, that there is such a thing as society. And that's why I believe that while we're still holding burn suppers and still holding the hands of strangers, then maybe, just maybe, we've got a chance. That, ladies and gentlemen, truly is immortality. Can I ask you to be upstanding, if you're able, and join me in the toast? And the toast is Robert Burns.
Robert Burns.
Robert Burns. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as a wee treat, thanks to the wonders of modern technology, we have a song for you, the first of two songs by award-winning mod singer Angus MacDonald, who's up in Tarskevake's Skye, and he's going to sing "Game Bring, Take Me a Pint of Wine." Take it away, Angus.
Bring to me a pint of wine and fill it in a silver cassie, that I may drink before I go a service to my bonny lassie. The boat rocks at the pier o'leaf, full the wind blows frae the ferry, the ship rides at the berry claw, and I maun leave my bonny Mary. Bring to me a pint of wine and fill it in a silver cassie, that I may drink before I go a service to my bonny lassie. The trumpets sound, the banners fly, the glittering spears are ranked and ready. The shouts of war are heard afar, the battle closes thick and bloody. It's not a roar of sea or shore, nor mak me longer wish to tarry, nor sounds of war that's heard afar. It's leaving thee, my bonny Mary. Bring to me a pint of wine and fill it in a silver tassie, that I may drink before I go a service to my bonny lassie.
Thank you very much for that, Angus. That was wonderful. We'll have another song from Angus in a short little while. Now, we're going to move on to the next part of the entertainment, and as a break from tradition, just because it worked for us in a timing wise, Lucy Anderson is going to do Toast to the Lads.
Ladies and gentlemen, it falls to me, your allocated lassie for this evening, to toast the laddies, wherever they may be in this virtual world. Now, gentlemen, you may not realise just how wonderful it is to be a woman, but I have compiled a list of the top 10 reasons why it is just bloody dandy to be a lassie. 10. We get off the Titanic first. Number 9. We can be groupies. Male groupies are stalkers. 8. We can cry and bat our pretty lashes and be excused for speeding fines. Number 7. We never look like a frog in a blender when dancing. Number 6. We never have to reach down every so often to make sure certain bits are still there. 5. We have the ability to dress ourselves. 4. We know that there are times in life when chocolate really can solve all of our problems. 3, we never ever regret piercing our ears. 2, we have the magical ability to fully assess a person just by looking at their shoes. And the number one reason why it is great to be a lassie, we can scare every lad with mysterious gynecological excuses. Unfortunately, however, it also falls to me to lower the tone of the evening and talk about men. Not that I'm in any way suggesting that these two things might go hand in hand. And what better way to pay homage to the lads on this day of birth of Scotland's favourite son than with a bit of poetic verse. Ah, how my female heart yearns for those yesteryear times of Rabbie Burns, when men were men and women fair of face, objects of desire if firmly in their place. How would we modern women feel, do you suppose, if our men were to liken us to a red, red rose? Would our hardened hearts not beat and flutter so, if they called us their Highland lassie, oh? Could Cupid's arrow possibly score a miss, if on our lips our man planted a fond kiss? With pleasure would we not nearly die, if his body met ours coming through their eye? We'd surely be delighted, truth to tell, if affectionately he called us handsome Nell. Toward him how could we vent our spleen, if he held us tight and called us Bonnie Jean? Oh, the romantic poet, handsome and so wise, was no saint and he liked to womanize, but he did it with panache and with charm, and his flattering words kept us out of harm. Sure, Rabbie Burns lived way back in the 18th century, and this now of course is 2021. So much has changed since Rabbie ploughed the land. If he saw us now, would he possibly understand? In his day he was quite a heavy hitter, but what would he make of Facebook and of Twitter? Of YouTube, TiVo or the mobile phone? Of never being out of touch or ever alone? Yet many things have really changed so little. Are 21st century hearts all that more brittle? We women now expect equality, but we'd surely still go weak at the knees if our men were just a little less pedantic, less modern and a little more romantic. I know that we have heard them all wax lyrical, express our love without being satirical. For their sweet beloved lassie right enough, yet sometimes our men are made of softer stuff. There's one of them who's proven he can care for the lovely looks of his lassie fair, and another who enjoys some slip and tickle with a fair lass he calls his lady pickle. For one lass it might well be a drag, that affectionately she's called his scallywag. For another it is quite plain to see, in his lassie's arms it's like a rhapsody. One of them has such a sense of fun, he likens his lassie to a smoking gun. Yes, you're all full of bonhomie and banter, but could one of you pen for us a tam o'shanter? Most of you could spin us a line, but what could you create for Auld Lang Syne? Ah, you may not all be poets, just mere men, and for us lassies you come in useful now and then. You may not all be like dear Rabbie Burns, but a woman loves a man who quickly learns. You know, for all their shortcomings, we women couldn't get along without men. If nothing else, we'd need someone to boss around. And your little foibles are usually why we like you so much. As Burns himself said, a man's a man for a' that. So, although as a woman, it pains me, I'm going to give the last words to a man, the man of the hour, Robert Burns, before we toast the laddies. It's Burns who gives the best picture of the perfect harmony of men and women getting along. We will big a wee wee hoose, and we will live like king and queen. Sae blithe and merry's we will be, when ye set by the wheel at e'en. A man may drink and no be drunk, a man may fight and no be slain. A man may kiss a bonny lass, and I be welcome back again. So, before another minute passes, let's all stand and raise our glasses, and a toast to the lads from the lasses, and get them all up off their asses. To the lads. Cheers.
So again, in this virtual world, we are going to hot-foot it back up to Tarskebagan Skye, to Angus MacDonald. You all know him as Angus MacDonald, ex-history teacher, head teacher, deputy director of education, now retired, living up in Tarskinnig and Skye as a fisherman, as a croft holder, as a farmer. But I know him as Uncle Gus, and he's there to do the work that Auntie Morag tells him. Truly blessed to have him as my uncle, and now he's going to sing My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose. Take it away, Uncle Gus.
Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like the melody that sweetly played in tune. As fair art thou, my bonny lass, sae deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, while sands o' life shall run. Then fare thee weel, my only love, and fare thee weel a while, and I will come again, my love, though 'twere 10,000 mile, though 'twere 10,000 mile, my love, though 'twere 10,000 mile, and I will come again, my love, though 'twere 10,000 mile.
My love is like a red, red rose. Well done, Uncle Gus. Superb, thank you. So now, the toast to the lassies. Ladies! Are you drinking tonight? Wine, Prosecco or gin? Don't be shy then. Why not let us know about it in all your social media channels? Is it wine o'clock? Is it Prosecco o'clock? Is it gin o'clock? Because we guys need to know this. We need to know, because our life's incomplete unless you clog it up. Honest, we need to know that. Ah, the lassies. We all love the lassies. I'm awash with lassies, my life. A wife, 2 daughters, 2 sisters, 5 nieces. There's women everywhere in work and wherever. And as much as we love them, we all know their hard work. My wife Alison, 28 years married this year we are, in June. She moans about everything. 28 years ago, we get married in a castle. And she said, this is a bit shite. And I said, for God's sake, don't be so ungrateful. Anyway, keep bouncing. Sometimes there's just no pleasing them. In these tough, unprecedented times, you have to search out the positives to survive. My 2 lassies, one here, the gorgeous one, are 25, nearly 26 and 23. So it's great that we don't have to do the homeschooling thing, because I know that we would have really struggled with it. I really feel for all the parents out there, Mary Claire, Alison Gardner, who are having to step up to the plate and keep their kids educated and entertained. I was at Wood Farm, Lucy was at Wood Farm, so was Emily, 1978 to 1984, it's a long time ago, but I still remember some things. I remember physics, Newton's 3rd law of motion, but what people don't remember is Newton's 3rd law of emotion, which he also did. And he said, for every male action, there's always a female overreaction. Gentlemen, Remember that well and you'll sail through life. But let's not forget Rabbie. Rabbie loved the ladies. Famously loved the ladies. And this was reflected in his life and in his writings. You have a Burns poem about you if your name is Anna, Alison, Katie, Mary, Jeannie, Cloris, Clorinda, Nancy, Nell, Molly, Polly, Bessie, Jessie, Eliza, Maria, and Delia. And probably a few others I haven't mentioned, that I've missed. Of course, the love of his life was Jean Armour. Jeannie had 4 children by him before they were married, and 5 more during their marriage. And he fathered several more with other lady friends during their marriage. This is a guy who died at 37 years old. So it wasn't just birthdays and Christmases that he got a shot. He was a busy boy. Robbie was an olden day Frank McAvenny crossed with Lee Griffiths, for those who are looking for a football analogy. Rabbie famously became an exciseman after struggling with farming. Why did he do that? Granted, farming was hard work, but there was money to be made, and with many mouths to feed from his expanding family, it did make sense to access as much food from the family, for the family, from your own land as possible, rather than have to pay for it. But farming was difficult. I have a theory why he became an exciseman, or a tax collector, as they're called these days. And this is particularly relevant today in Brexit times with immigration. In the 1790s, Scotland was suffering from a dwindling population with negative immigration. Burns realised that the fewer the population meant the fewer taxes that could be collected. I put it to you that Burns wasn't just satisfying his carnal lust, but he was trying to repopulate Scotland for king and for country. What a noble and selfless task. What a hero. What a shagger. Gents, the date is 2021 and history is repeating itself. Nicola is calling us. Again, Scotland is suffering negative immigration. There is no more freedom of movement in Europe. Post-COVID, Holyrood needs our taxes more than ever. We need to do what has to be done. Gentlemen, look across the table to your lovely lassie. It's time. Alan, gaze into Sarah's eyes. Martin, look at the gorgeous Trisha. Craig, Alison G. Oh. Chris, the redoubtable Mary Claire. Gary to Elaine. Alan to Julie. Mike to Alison. Jason to Julie. Jim to Marlene. Come on, the Stirlings. And of course, Ian to the voluptuous Sheila. Gentlemen, it's time. Snip the doors, have a glass of wine. You know what has to be done. We need to increase our population. It's time to look after the ladies. Please be upstanding and join me in the toast. Gents, upstanding. And the toast is the lassies. The lassies. Gentlemen, go and do your duty. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're able, please be upstanding to join in Old Lang Syne with us for the end of the evening. Thank you very much for participating. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed your food. We're going to go home and carry on with the wine. No whiskey, we'll just have a wee sip of that. And there's a batch of shortbread that I've still got to work my way through. Hope nobody's been offended by any of the language used in any of the speeches. And enjoy your evening celebrating what would have been Burns' 262nd birthday. Okay, this is awkward, this is tacky. So it's a good night from me, and it's a good night
Good night.
from Lizzie. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank
Cheers. Flange.
And we